Today is Monday, and we're out again, filming around town. Today we're going to talk to a perfumer down in Boulder. We're going to Huff Beauty. Wow, man.
Hi, nice to meet you.
My man Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
God, don't you
Thanks
smell
for having
good.
us.
Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not surprised at all. God, it smells good. Oh, there's so much going on in here.
There is, and luckily you will get used to it. That's the nice thing, is that you kind of acclimate so that it's not a kind of overwhelming experience from the get-go all the way through.
Well,
you know?
I'm happy to be overwhelmed. I'm loving this. Could we maybe get a little walk around or something here? So all of this, of course, is a collection of art. You know, that's what's so nice about this. Each one of these is like it's just like standing in front of a table of paintings or something like that. Oh, I'm just gonna love seeing all this. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's really my pleasure.
I'm really getting into designer fragrance from an artistic perspective.
Yeah.
I guess like about 2 years ago, I realized that perfumers were communicating through their art form.
Yes.
And that had never occurred to me. So I'd always sort of considered it a craft. But I guess like art is a craft that you're communicating through. It's probably the easiest way to say it.
Sure.
And so I guess I've just fallen in love with fragrance over the last 2 years. The fragrance that really got me into it was CH Men by Carolina Herrera.
Okay.
The pre-2011 blend.
Yeah.
It was this kind of burnt sugar and leather and a little bit of powder kind of a thing happening. I just pushed my beauty button so hard that I feel like I'll be chasing that experience the rest of my life here.
So all of these that you see on the shelves in tester form are all constructed, they're all designs that I've created. I have this really, really intense creative urge that needs to be fed, or else I'm not a happy camper. So I end up designing like more than a lot of other people, just because that need is there.
Now you're hanging out with the right guy.
Okay, I can't control it. I don't try to control it anymore, and it's, now I just try to edit. I mean, amazingly, this is the edited. This is, it's a little scary. People are like, why don't you edit? I'm like, I am editing. This is the edited collection. So, so this is a collection, one of my first ready-to-wear collections. So I started many years ago doing almost exclusively bespoke designs.
And what does bespoke mean?
Bespoke means custom made. So you come in, you book an appointment with me, and I design something for you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I design directly on the skin too. So it's literally the equivalent of someone taking a tailor taking fabric and cutting a pattern to your body.
Right.
To the exact measurement. So we make sure that the final ingredient, which is you, works at every step of the design. So anyway, I started in bespoke. And then around 1997, I started doing some ready-to-wear collections. So this was one of my first ones. So this is New Creations, and this has some pretty straightforward, like Wild Fig. It's meant to be, it's not exactly a solid floor equivalent of a fig, right? But it's more of a portrait, or like vanille is like a French style vanilla.
It's more of a portrait.
It is more.
Oh, I love what we're doing today.
Yes, it's more of a portrait than say, some things are a landscape, some things are abstraction, some, because I come from I'm an art background. I'm a classically trained painter. I certainly think in terms of visual art referencing. I'm synesthetic, so for me, it is actually blurry. It's the same thing. I think about making paintings the same way I think about making perfume, and vice versa. And then Jitterbug, I mean, I can't tell you how many people have asked me over the years, had asked me already, have you read Jitterbug Perfume? So this, both the For Men and the Jitterbug, that I feel is universal. It's for men or women.
Yeah, totally.
But it references some points in the book, and then it also, this version in particular speaks to the dance craze or like perfume that would have been popular during the time of the jitterbug. So it's a kind of vintagey, retro nouveau, ambery, oriental.
Yes.
Yeah. But also has the jasmine and has a kind of like, there is no such thing as beet pollen, which is like one of the main ingredients in the book. But I did grow beets so that I could smell beet flowers to try to understand something about beet pollen to make an accord that would speak to that in a real way. So that it's not just...
I like you very much. I like what you're doing. You're speaking to me on a very deep artistic level now. I love it.
This collection, Perfection Connoisseur, and then in 2003 I sort of gave it a sister, which is Les Rouges. And Perfection is sort of, again, like these kind of like vintage-inspired retro nouveau, old world designs, like things that would have been popular at, say, the turn of the 20th century to like the Art Deco period. And these are a higher end collection, so I'm using almost exclusively botanicals in them. They're all like 95 to 100% botanical. So they have sort of a higher just intrinsic value just because of the materials. And some of them are really hard to use materials. Like Café Noir was actually, as far as I know, the first coffee fragrance on the market. That came out in 1997.
This right here?
Yeah, or
this one right here.
Mm-hmm. And it's got Coffee Absolute, which is really interesting to try and work with. It's super fatty, so you have to do a lot of dilution.
Super fatty.
And super fatty, and so you have to macerate it and sort of like get it to bond with the alcohol and then separate it out. And so this is again like an ambery oriental with that dominant coffee note, but you don't smell like, whoops! I was at Starbucks, so you just spilled coffee on you. It has that wonderful aromatic to it. And is really inviting, and people love the smell of coffee, but it's still a perfume, which I think is super important, especially with things in the gourmand category. This is a very sort of early oriental segueing into gourmand before there was gourmand. With gourmands, it can be foodie, it can be, delicious, it can be, something you want to eat and you recognize that, but at the same time, to me, artistically, it still has to feel like perfume, or you're just sort of making like, I don't know, scented strawberry shortcake dolls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. It's a sexy smell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, sexy coffee smell? Oh.
What?
Oh, darling. I can totally pick out a coffee note in here, but it is not just smelling a cup of coffee with some stuff in it.
Right. Yeah.
You are mashing my beauty button, friend. I'm so pleased. I love this stuff. Boy, I love to smell smells.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm the insatiable smeller. I do, besides the U.S., Japan is my biggest market.
Really?
And when I've been in Japan, they call me Curious George, because I literally, they'll be like, where's Dawn? And I'll be like, up a tree.
Yeah.
And I'll come down, I'll have like pollen all over my face, and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, I needed to smell that blooming, tree. I needed to go up there and like scratch a leaf.
Yeah, no, I'm getting into that same way, man. I've started a genuine obsession with this stuff, and I've started collecting samples, and changing my fragrance every day.
Yeah.
I'm finding that one thing I'm really loving about wearing a designer fragrance every day and changing it almost every day is it really brings me into the present moment.
Exactly.
I work from home, in my little studio and everything, so the days can sort of blend together pretty easily.
Yes.
So it's nice to be able to sort of be like, I'm in the same place doing the same thing, but today it's La Nuit de l'Homme instead of, whatever, Dylan Blue or whatever.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that I teach clients who come for consultation, that they have the ability to use fragrance to give themselves that momentary check-in without really even having to overthink it. Right? Because when you look at your fragrance wardrobe and you say, how do I feel today? Or like, what am I doing today? It's like the thing that you ask yourself when you're looking at your clothes. what do I want to feel like today? And you put on your clothes.
Yeah.
And then you could have that same kind of like, well, I'm feeling, you know, maybe I'm a little tired, so I need a little pick-me-up. Or maybe I'm feeling, you know, sensuous, and I want to speak to myself about that, because every time you also, one, you're communicating the same way that a perfumer is communicating through art form to you.
Yes.
You are communicating to others and yourself through aroma.
Yes.
Right?
So you become active part of the art yourself.
Exactly. You can use any kind of fragrance to affect your mood and your feeling and your self-talk.
Yes.
Even. Through what you've decided to give yourself for that day.
You know?
Right. I think that a fragrance should make you feel like you're sitting in your favorite chair, like in your favorite sweater or whatever, like the most comfortable experience. And like when people come and I do, say, a fragrance consultation with them, and I smell a number of things on their skin, after we've smelled a bunch of things and edited things out, what we actually want to put on your very, very prime real estate of your person. Because I'm not somebody who's like, let's try this, let's try that, you know, and just stink you up and then send you out.
You know, bouquet.
Exactly, some kind of very, very strange bouquet. I think that, you know, we want to smell them on the card, think about it, and then try things on the skin, and then decide, you know, which one sings. Which one sings and which one also makes you feel, you don't feel like you're on the edge of your seat. If you feel like this, that's not the right fragrance for you, even if you love it. That's something that you should then like put on a tissue or something periodically and just smell for your own pleasure.
A little snack.
Yes, exactly. It's just a little nice sniffy, like, oh, I love that smell, but it's not my thing. I'm going to embody, because it's also the difference between liking a smell that you can walk away from and a smell that you now are, and you are it is you.
You're like painting your aura a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, the thing you want to have on your person, I think, is a very, very big decision. In the ancient world, when people came across like good smelling things, it was actually like a hallucinatory experience. They were so like, oh my God, this smells great. It must be some representation of God.
Yeah, I see that.
That's why actually in ancient Egypt, aromatics were used solely for spiritual purposes for a very, very long time, and they were just handled by the priests and priestesses at the sort of temples, and they were used totally to animate the gods. So they would anoint the statues. So it's just a statue to them until the ritual of the anointing. And then when they put the aromatic on the statue and it starts exuding, it's like the god is now there, present in the moment with you. Right? Is that cool?
That's the coolest fucking idea I've heard in a long time.
And then slowly over hundreds of years, it became something that then the priests could wear. And then as the priests were wearing them because they're people, but they're holy people, then eventually it became something that like went into actual Egyptian homes, down to even slaves. And from the research that I did, the first slave revolt was actually around perfume.
Really?
Yes. So there was a shortage, and there was like during the building of the Valley of the Kings, and the slaves would normally get a quota of perfume, because literally in the culture at that time, if you weren't perfumed, you weren't scented, it's the same thing as like anointing the god. The animation, like you weren't actually alive, right, unless you had your ritual perfume. So you were exuding your scent, and you also were like one, because there are aromatics that were considered parts of the god.
Yes.
So they're embodied in the perfume. So literally God exists, parts of God, Ra, exists in this perfume, and then when you put it on and you are now it is you are one, and your beingness
it's on you, it's going in you because you're smelling it.
Right, and others are smelling it, so now you exist. Their quota of perfume was cut off because there was a shortage, and of course the slaves are the lowest on the totem pole, so if we don't have enough, you guys are the ones not getting it. And they were like, fine, I'm not working. You can kill me because I'm dead already because I don't have my scent.
Oh my God. The previous one we smelled,
the blues.
This more large scale kind of smell, but there's a lot of room. I sense a lot of room in kind of the mid notes. It seems like there's just some empty space there. Not like in a negative way, just kind of providing space for
I
those
like that.
crisp top
I
notes.
definitely think that having room to be in it.
Yes.
If it's so congested and so pushed together, you know, it gives you that sense. I think I come back to this image of being in drawing class my freshman year at BU, and, you know, working with still life, drawing still life, and the idea that was planted in my head by one of the professors talking about it was, draw it as if you could fly a small airplane around all the pieces.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So,
a little negative space to provide.
Exactly, like and also understanding like the three-dimensionality. I mean, there was a big emphasis on you're drawing from this angle, but you better go walk around it a number of times to sort of like get what does it look like from the other side. And you need to be thinking about what it is on the other side and on all the sides when you're drawing from the perspective you're drawing at.
It's a great art lesson, dude.
You know, yeah, and I think about that the same way. About having there be enough space for you to walk around those flowers.
Yeah. It's easier to pick them out if there's a little room in there.
Yeah, and I think it's also easier to be with it. If it feels like a tidal wave of flowers, which maybe it would be like a beautiful way to die, you know, I still don't know if I want that. You know?
There are a few things that irritate me. There's some fragrances that I love the smell of, but if I wear it, it's just going to burn my nose all day. Invictus by Paco Rabanne's that way. Super sweet, very powerful. If you put on a little bit, you've put on a lot.
Right.
And it's just like, I put it way on the side so it doesn't just blow up my
That's
shit
one of
all
those
day.
ones that I would like spray on the small of my back or something so that like I like turn and like get a little whiff and be like, yeah, there it is. That's all I need.
It's there.
I want to show you this one. I do think that you really love this one.
You are probably right.
This one is called Become the Shaman.
Ooh.
And it was part of a project that was proposed to sort of create like a talisman. Like use a fragrance as a strength, as your warding off evil, your evil eye protection, the odor protection. I think that was another.
Odor protection.
So I sort of took that.
Oh, very different smell.
Totally. I sort of took this in this way of like, oh, it would be really interesting to create a fragrance that just utilizes materials that come from the Americas. And think about it from, because, you know, like a lot of people, of course, were doing like Indian incense or, you know, like somebody did like a hamsa, you know, do you know what that is?
No.
It's like this upside down evil eye hand that comes from the Middle East that has like a thumb on both sides.
Oh, yes.
You ever seen
I have seen that, yes.
And, you know, so like a lot of people pulling from traditions from, you know, Asia and India and China, what have you. And I thought it'd be really cool. Like I didn't know of anybody who's done like a fragrance that specifically spoke to sort of like Native American traditions. So this has tobacco and Mexican copal and Palo Santo.
I don't know what those things are.
They're all woods and resins and things that have been used by Native Americans from like South America through Central America to North America in their ritual.
I definitely smell tobacco and some mysterious elements I can't place. But I love it, man. Boy, I'm just so into all of it. Thank you so much for letting me see this stuff.
Oh, totally.
I'm just so enjoying it.
That and I really think you should smell Foxy.
Oh, I just so agree.
Foxy is part of a series of animalics I've been doing. Animalics are having a real comeback.
It's going to smell like a real fox.
No. Yes, no. It smells furry. You definitely have been working on these sort of textural experience in fragrance, so like different textures of fur. So this is kind of slightly more rough, a little, you know, still furry and soft, but also a little bit rough and like an animal that lives in the woods. It's also taken some aspects of the structure or the idea from the Wes Anderson film Fantastic Mr. Fox. So there's like the boozy aspect in the top is like farmer beans, apple cider, you know, his like alcoholic cider. And then there's also farmer beans' wife's cinnamon, nutmeg, apple, ginger snap.
My mind is exploding.
So it has these kind of like fun aspects, and then it also, because of the name Foxy, it kind of like is referencing like 1970s ambery animalics. You know, like you're so foxy.
Yeah, I use that term still. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to anymore.
Well, it's okay. I think you can.
I don't want to dehumanize anyone by calling them foxy.
Well, I don't know. I think depending on who you say it to and in the context, I mean, I think everything can be contextual for the most part.
My beauty button is getting leaned on today, man. And I'm enjoying it so deeply. I would totally eat an ice cream that tasted like this.
Oh, I would too. I'm gonna grab chinchilla. I'm alone.
Chinchilla. Dude, this is a good time.
I'm like, there's so many I want to show you that are like super fun.
Dawn, there's so many I want to be shown.
This is chinchilla, and this one is definitely like leaning more on musk.
And how many chinchillas did we have to juice for this?
No chinchillas have been harmed in the creation of this perfume. But it also has a much softer, furry texture.
I see what you mean. So here's the last one. This is the fox. This is the chinchilla. This is much boozier, much darker smell.
And has like,
Does this have more of that iris in there? It smells like got a little bit of that kind of creamy sweetness somewhere in there.
There's not a lot of iris, but it's musk, and musk can have a kind of creamy thing. But there's also honey is one of the main aspects in that makes that work.
That's the best. It's the best time.
I know you're a man after my own heart because I absolutely love to smell. I just love to smell.
Boy, it just brings me so much pleasure in such a new way in my life, you know. I'm a total beauty addict. Oh, that does it for me, man. I'd wear this chinchilla today.
And then this one is called Rendezvous.
Rendezvous.
So this one is more speaking to indolic jasmine.
Yeah.
And so it's a little more floral ambery. But lots of dudes wear that. So it's definitely not so floral that you would be like, oh God.
No, that amber definitely balances it out, brings it into, not I wouldn't say a super masculine place, but definitely a balanced place.
Mm-hmm.
A pretty lady could totally wear this too. Oh, I'd wear that. Boy, I'd wear any one of these.
Good. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Oh boy, there's a whole meal of scent happening today, and this is very pleasing. Jasmine can be such an abrasive smell when it goes too far, it seems like. Mm-hmm. Straight jasmine seems like it could be a little abrasive.
It can be. And definitely different genuses have different tonalities. So
this feels like it's kind of floating on the top of this much more, I don't know, well-rounded base. Oh, I love it. I'm having the best day. I like that very much, Dawn. That makes me want to close my eyes. I get a whole sensory thing happening with that. But these two are just goddamn gorgeous.
Thank you.
Oh, you're turning me on so much. Oh, I can't stand it.
I want to change gears too. Okay, so I'm going to show you also just some of these are just some of the ones I really like too, that I think are sort of funny. Interesting, funny. So this is Vert et Noir, and this is part of a collection of Eau Fraiche designs I did a couple summers ago. And Eau Fraiche is sort of in the eau de cologne category. Meant to be refreshing and light for summer. And I decided to do them all sort of in this vegetal gourmand aspect. So they all have a kind of like vegetable. So two of them have lettuce accords. So this has a lettuce accord. But it's technically a vetiver perfume.
Yeah, okay.
So it's green and black, Vert et Noir, and it was inspired by my son's basketball. So it has a little which was green and black, and it was sort of miniature basketball that he got when he was, I don't know, 2 or 3. And the first thing I thought when I saw it is, you know, that kind of vaguely looks like a fruit and a perfume. Like that was my first thought, like, oh my God, that looks like a fruit and a perfume. And eventually I'm gonna make a perfume around this basketball idea.
Dude, that's an artist. That's an artist for sure.
So it's got some citrusy bits, it's got some green bits, it's got some things that speak to black, like the vetiver is black, and there's a black licorice note.
Yes.
tucked in there.
My God, I didn't even recognize that till you said it. Yes.
And so juxtapose the lettuce accord and a kind of leafy green and a little celery, and but it's very fresh. That's what I really like. And it's also, traditional vetiver perfumes in the French style technically are more sort of like eau de cologne lime that then dries down to vetiver, then like bam, a big vetiver root fragrance that usually they're not a big, actually they're called vetiver, but they're not big. They could be like powdery colognes that go to a little bit of an earthy vetiver place in the dry down. So that's more like what this is referencing, but in this sort of like kooky.
I love
There's
that.
a little bit of cucumber and rubber,
I get, cucumbery kind of celery thing. The vetiver, yeah.
But it works. I really like it. It's one of my favorites.
My God, my
and I
mind
just
is
like
exploding.
that it's a basketball.
Yeah, that's
I just
strange.
sort of think it's fun.
I love where you're drawing inspiration from. I see a basketball, I start thinking about cucumbers and celery and vetiver. Now I'll make a basketball fragrance.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Like I literally, like, my Instagram, a lot of times, like, my stuff will be like, inspiration everywhere, because it literally is like the most random places. People are like, where do you get inspiration for perfumes? I'm like, you name it.
Yeah, I can't get inspired so easily. It's just a battle to stop making things is where I'm at.
I think that's artists, like, makers make. That's what they do. That's what I do. I can't stop myself.
Peter and I were just talking about that over coffee. Yeah. Makers make.
Makers make. This one is called Albino, and a lot of people are a little offended by the name, but the subtitle is A Study in White. So the idea is, it started out like sort of with this fascination with albino raspberries, right?
I didn't know that was even a thing.
Yeah.
Albino raspberries?
And because I was making this accord with one of my students, and I was just like, there's something about that reminds me of raspberries, but clear, like albino raspberries. And then I Googled it, and there are such a thing, and then I started looking for them, and I found albino raspberries, and I started working with this accord, and then I started developing this idea of like, okay, so it has this raspberry, started with this raspberry accord, but what would it be like if like I took all these things that are sort of either colorless or white, and so the subtitle is A Study in White, like studying, like thinking about, I don't know, whiteness, colorlessness, pigmentlessness, which is why I stuck with albino.
It's so juicy and tart.
Yeah, it starts out, and it also has a textural shift. It starts out sort of pithy, because the top note ends up being grapefruit pith.
Yes.
So the space between the rind and the juice. And then moves through white cognac, through the white raspberry accord, into kind of white woods. And so it goes from this sort of like pithy, fresh kind of quality to something that becomes more creamy as it dries down.
Oh, Dawn, thank you so much for letting us come by and see your place.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this and to share and all of it.
It was deeply my pleasure, I gotta tell you. Maybe we'll just have to come back another time. And
awesome. Well, because we haven't even seen the museum.
No, that's right. And we
so
didn't.
At some point.
Someday, I would love to get together with you and design a fragrance. Maybe. Okay. That seems like a lot of fun. Boy, you make it seem like fun, dude.
It is fun.
You have such high concept fragrances. I just am so in love with what you're doing. Thank you very much. And what is the website that people could go to, maybe?
To DSHperfumes.com.
That's easy. You could spell all that, you know? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
My God. Oh.
So this is, again, like an too sweet. The Cabernet Noir won't be, but this, it is wicked good. It's wicked good. It's Pissa.
Nice. Awesome.
Botanical, sort of oceanic ambery incense. The sense of walking towards a very lush, verdant garden.
Yes.
dewiness as well as early spring
Ooh.
flowers. So.
Oh, I want to eat this. God, it's good.
So
Whoa.
this is like a salty green chypre with a honeysuckle dominant heart. You know, I have never seen a honeysuckle fragrance for dudes.
Oh my God, it's so good.
And there's some nice balsam in it. Because I was making this accord with one of my students, and I was just like, there's something.
I'm having the best day.
This. So that's the pomelo.
Ooh. I want to eat all of these.